the start of a new cycle, actually, through the whole, the whole, how you call that, in English, the dierenriem, the
zodiac?
Yeah, the zodiac, right, the zodiac, right, I just missed it.
But that is another interesting point. Again, the way the media represents things, you would think, if you listen to the radio, nobody believed in astrology.
No.
They're always having scientists on and people like Richard Dawkins and making fun of it, demeaning it. But if you go out and talk to most normal people, the majority of people do believe there's something in it. So again, you know, the way we are told the world is not at all how it is when you talk to normal people. And a lot of these people are very sensible. They've got every reason to believe in these things.
Well, maybe it's just interesting now to have a little talk from Ellen.
Absolutely.
Helen, just join the party. Can you come a little bit closer? This is the partner of
Andy Thomas.
Andy, yes, right. And as we heard, she's a spiritual astrologer. And psychological. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's also interesting. Maybe comes to the same at the end. But what is your forecast for the coming time, Ellen?
Okay. Well, what's going on at the moment? And interesting enough, the first opposition of the planet Saturn to do with structure and form and like the old and the established came into opposition with the planet Uranus, which is to do with the new, and it's got a revolutionary spirit. And the first opposition of those was on the day of the American election.
Okay.
Is it the 8th of November? In 2007, wasn't it? And
2008.
2008, sorry, yeah. And since then, that opposition has still been going on in the heavens. So on the one hand, we had Obama representing Uranus, the new, you know, even his colour proved that it was different, and McCain representing Saturn, which was the old guard. Now, we've got that going on, and we've also got now Pluto is now what's called a square aspect to Saturn. And every time you have that, if you look back through the cycles in history, then you can see what's happened. And like at the end of the Second World War, Saturn was squaring Pluto. It's like the revolution, the opening up or the discovery of things that aren't very pleasant, like the concentration camps. And now we've had the whole thing with the revelations with the Catholic Church, you know, the MP's expenses in Britain and that kind of thing. So it's a lot of dark, murky stuff is coming up. It's about, you can't really, it needs the truth. It wants to find the truth. Of course, we've had the three outer planets changing signs. So we, like you were saying about Pluto moving into Capricorn, and Capricorn represents the establishment.
Exactly.
Governments, authority, rules, regulations, even the military. And the planet Pluto represents death and transformation. Okay, so it's going to spend 16 years in Capricorn, and over that time I think there's going to be a big change and we started off with the financial institution, but also I think governments are really going to go through big changes, and Pluto represents power and control, and you know, in the sign to do with governments and that kind of thing, we are really talking about big steps towards one world government. You know, if you can.
Which is, of course, what many people are concerned about.
Exactly.
And yet, yes, there does seem to be a movement towards that, just in the stars, almost.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's getting the right kind of world government, because the one that's being proposed at the moment is not good. It's being made by the wrong people. That's the problem. Even though, as an ideal, it could work if it was governed by angels, you know.
Yes.
But it isn't.
Yes, and so we've got, and each time an outer planet moves from one side to the next, we get somehow a shift in society. So, as you correctly said, the planet Uranus, to do with the new and revolution, and is a truth seeker, moves into the fiery sign of Aries in May. So from you know, during May it changes into Aries. It has, I think it's been very unhappy in the sign of Pisces, Because Pisces is about, it's a bit foggy, it's a bit under-focused in a way. So it's, if you can imagine being a truth seeker in a sign that's more associated with illusion, it's not going to find it. And I think we've found that. And Uranus does represent politics and that kind of thing. So I think there's going to be more clarity. There's been a lot of hidden, slippery stuff going on with, and also in the charts of Gordon Brown, Tony Blair, George Bush, they all had charts. It's what's called a 12th house sun, which has a kind of Piscean flavour, and you have to be very honest if you've got your sun there, and if you haven't, then you can act, in a kind of more slippery way.
Yeah, right.
And I think we've seen this.
Yeah.
But so there's going to be a shift then, and then of course in 2012, Uranus comes into very dynamic aspect with Pluto. It's like the clash of the titans, as Andy was saying. It's like Uranus representing freedom, being the new, wanting to do what is the truth, and Pluto controlling through fear.
Yes, exactly. Well, then where will this revelation of what's happening in this Catholic Church, where will this lead to? Will this be the end of the Church?
Well, again, what's really interesting is that's one more layer that's being unpeeled, where people thought they had something they could solidly believe in and trust in. Even those that weren't practicing Catholics, you knew if you saw a priest, there was somebody you could trust or whatever. That's gone. I mean, in some places in Ireland, we have somebody we know very well who's a priest. He says they're actually being abused in the streets. People are being rude to them, and you actually don't dress as a priest anymore. So it's completely turned around. And I don't think it can destroy the Catholic Church, but I definitely think that in terms of the West, in the way they are seen, in terms of role models, I think it's going to go through a massive change. And of course the Pope is visiting Britain later this year. I think we can see a lot of protests, we're going to see a lot of trouble around that, and already some people, they want to arrest him, try to do a citizen's arrest on the Pope because of the cover-up over the abuse. So I think it's going to be a very difficult time.
But it can also be part of the elite agenda, just to break down all religions and prepare the world for the new world, one world religion.
Well, I mean, possibly so. There's certainly something going on that I think involves all the religions. And fundamentalist Christianity has obviously underpinned George W. Bush to a degree, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton's very involved in that world. And I mean, in the book, The Truth Agenda, I write about the importance of the Fatima apparitions of 1917, and that the current Pope, Pope Benedict, who was of course Cardinal Ratzinger, he was one of the key Vatican staff that spent his years researching Fatima. He verified it as a real miracle, and he was the one that dropped the biggest hints of all, that the third secret that later on they played down, they said, oh, it was just about this assassination attempt on John Paul II. Well, Cardinal Ratzinger dropped heavy hints. It was about end times, huge change for the world, upheaval. He was the one that dropped the biggest hints. So here is a man who has a lot of secrets, who has a big influence over a lot of people's lives. And yes, he must be, I think, secretly expecting great big change any day now. Whether the whole abuse thing was expected, or whether that's come in and that's spoiling their plans, I don't know. Whether all the world religions will suddenly merge, I'm not sure I yet see any evidence of that, but I do think certainly that if things start to happen which are either so huge that people question their whole faith in anything, or if you get more and more scandals, you will have to see the Catholic Church taking quite a different role. They won't be able to have that sort of overarching father figure image that they've had for so long. And I think certainly it will change a lot over the next 20 years, especially if there is any sort of earth change.